Hello and welcome back to the big stage, brought to you by Betting Expert. In today's show, we're going to relive some of the key moments from Euro 2020 and discuss some of the learnings from a betting point of view as well. Now, as always, I'm joined by former England international Wayne Bridge and Rory Jennings. Wayne, I want to start with you just to get your overall impressions. How has Euro 2020 been for you?
It has been great. Obviously, disappointing finish, but it has been great. It's great to see fans back in the stadium. It has lifted us as a nation, I think. Although we didn't get the end result, but I think everyone's really enjoyed it, to be honest. And the lads did do themselves proud.
And for you, Rory, what do you think will be the standout memory of the tournament?
I think it's tarnished now with sadness. I'm so proud of England. I think we did so well to get to where we got to, but ultimately, I feel like it's a missed opportunity. And the longer it goes, I've been trying to put a positive spin on it. I've been trying to say how well we've done to get where we got to and how well the players played and how proud I am of them. And all of that is true. But ultimately, now it's kind of all tinged with a little bit of sadness and regret because I think we really have missed an opportunity.
Now we are going to
I think everyone
Go
was
on, Wayne.
sad though, weren't they? I think at the end of it, wherever you're watching it, it killed the vibe a little bit because we all thought it was happening. I think you just got to sit back and look back at it, and the lads did do well. But I admit, there was so much sadness after the game. We watched it at home, and I couldn't watch them lift the trophy. I had to turn it off. However proud I was of the boys and everything, but I had to turn it off.
Now we are going to dig a little bit deeper into how the final went, as well as looking at some of our best bets or bold predictions as well from throughout the series. But let's get into it with our recap of the final. So, of course, England did lose out once again, penalty heartache. But Wayne, as our resident left back and expert, what did you make of that start from Luke Shaw? What a goal.
Oh, what a start, to be honest. Absolutely buzzing for him, because he's done so well this season. And straight away, people were in my household going, that shut Mourinho up. But it was weird. Did it, people talk about the goal maybe come a little bit too early. Did we sit back and things like that? But it was such a great start on the front foot. I just wish we could have kind of carried on in that way, really.
And Rory, for you, what was the reaction? Well, what did you make of England's reaction after going ahead so early?
This is now kind of tapping into what I meant before when I think it was a missed opportunity. England went 1-0 up at home in a final. That was our only shot on target in 120 minutes in a final of a tournament at home. And that now, I think when the full-time whistle blew and Italy were crowned champions, at the time, I thought it was just one of those things. It's the way it goes with penalties. But every day that's gone on since then, and you start processing it, and I've watched the game back, and you read the reports, and you suddenly go, do you know what? It actually wasn't good enough. It really wasn't. And I've got to say that stat again. That was our only shot on target in 120 minutes. And when you think of the squad at our disposal, when you think about the players that we could have brought on, when you think about the substitutions that we could have made, when you think about the attitude that we could have adopted from that position, to not then have one more shot on target after the second minute, it's not good enough. And I think while we can be proud of how it's gone, while we can acknowledge that we did very well, we got another monkey off our back by getting past the semi-final. Up until that point in my lifetime, 4 semi-finals for us, 0 appearances in a final. We got the monkey off our back. We got one further than we ever had done in my lifetime. But ultimately, it's all tinged with regret now. I think that we could have done so much more.
Wayne, for you as a player, do you kind of learn about these scenarios? Do you talk about that before the game? Like, if we do go a goal up, would that have been kind of Gareth's thought process going into the game? Like, how much influence would you have as a player?
To be honest, I don't think before a game you're going to talk about scoring an early goal. But you, as a team, as a manager, he's got to get his point across, straight away. And you like to think the players can take it on board. You've gone a goal up. You definitely don't want to sit back. Although when you look at our lineup, you could have said it's, with those 2 defensive midfielders in there, it's always going to look a a little bit defensive, even though we have been threatening in the last games. I find it really hard because I've been behind the boys so much. I've been behind the manager. He hasn't made decisions that I would necessarily have made. I've said that before, like players, I would have selected different players, but he did get us to the final. And yeah, look, I am really proud of the boys. They did lift the nation. They did get us to the final. Yes, I would have probably played a different team. Yes, I probably wouldn't have picked those penalty takers, or I would have got them on earlier if they were going to take a penalty. But he got us there. He did get us there. So I find it really, really hard to pick on it too much because he did get us there. But yeah, there is a lot of things I probably would have done different. But maybe if I was there, we probably wouldn't have even made it past the quarters. Who knows? But yeah, it's just really. It's really hard, especially when I've watched it at home with my family. It's pretty much being at the pub and everyone's got their own opinion. Should have done this and should have done that. It's never easy. It is never easy. I definitely would have liked to have seen him change it the way the game was going. Right, let's get more attacking players on, and just have one sit in, maybe go four at the back. I would have liked to have seen him change it, but it was it is. The lads did do well to get that far.
And I mean, Rory, do you agree on that point that it was kind of England's opportunity, or do you want to give a little bit of praise to Italy and how they defended, how they shut down England to that only one shot?
Oh, 100%, Joe. I think the two things can coexist, though. I think full credit to Italy. I think the way that they played the game, the way that Mancini changed the game, I'm full of admiration for, and I think they were deserved winners. But in the same token, I also think that England should have gone for the jugular. I think the fact that we proved that we could breach their defence so early, we should have made them pay. We should have got at them again. And if you're so desperate to defend, if that's part of your nature and part of the way that you think football should be played, that's fine. But you have to have more to preserve than a fairly flimsy looking 1-0. There's so much football to be played in that situation, and there wasn't enough to protect. And when you think of the players that we could have brought on, when you think of the changes that we could have made, look, I love Southgate. I've made that clear. I don't particularly want him to be changed. But one thing that I will flag is I find his substitutions unfathomable. Even when I love him, I don't understand the substitutions. And when you look at the way Mancini moved it around, pushed Verratti on, changed the tempo of the game, this is why I think it could have been so different. I think a different manager wins that game.
I mean, obviously, yeah. Sorry. Go on, Wayne.
It really hurt me because I hate Mancini. Everyone knows I've got no love for him. He's like, for me, the Italian players are so good. They're so intelligent. They've got such unity. Because I've been under him as a manager. Wouldn't say he's the worst I've had, but tactically, he isn't actually that great. But what he did was good, which hurts to say. But I think it's all credit to those Italian players. Like the way they play, they are so intelligent. I've said it before, they're horrible to play against. They make intelligent fouls, and the way he brought Saka down, and Jorginho could have got a red card. But they make these fouls. But they do it in a way that they just get away with it. That is so frustrating to play against.
And that's it. It's not in a dangerous area of the pitch.
Was Mancini?
Right? Yeah, go on, Rory.
Go on.
Sorry, Joe. Wayne, was Mancini your manager at City?
Yeah, and do you know what it was? Look, I fell out with him. I was there for a few months. We got on really well. I didn't enjoy training at all. It was, we do team shape against mannequins, and it would be like. So that as a fullback, it would be like, you're going to pass it to him or you're going to pass it to him. If you pass it to him, run that way. If you pass it to him, go that way. You'd have like 2 or 3 options and that was it. And you play against mannequins. And it was like, for me, that isn't football. And like, I remember one time Bellamy, and he was only trying to ask a question, what happens if this happens in a game? What happens if that happens in a game? And Mancini just would go, look, shut up, be quiet. And he go, well, no, I'm trying to ask the question. And in the end, he sent him in. And he sent him home, and he wouldn't have him back at training. Like for me, like as a manager, I can't get it. I really can't get my head around it. Like I was like my family was. Not only was my family cheering for England, they were cheering that Mancini was the manager as well, and they were losing. So it hurt us even more, probably, I'd say. But I just never really got him as a manager. I think, all credit to what he did at Man City, and he went and won the league. So City fans are going to love him. But if you look at the players and the squad that he has, that's what won it, not him as a manager.
Wow, some bold words there from you, Wayne. That's
fascinating, man. I love that insight.
But Roy, what do you think the players and Gareth Southgate in particular will actually take from this defeat?
Belief. I think that it must have instilled belief. When you think about what England have achieved, we broke two huge ducks. Beating Germany in the way that we did, in the comprehensive fashion that we did, is something that we haven't done before, not since 1966. Knocking out top-class opposition in 90 minutes is something that we haven't done. And getting over the hurdle of a semi-final. I think that this crop of England players, I know we've said this before, but I truly believe it with this crop. This crop will win top-tier silverware. It will. And the World Cup is very close. It's 15 months away. With that in mind, this team could use this as a springboard to go one step further. You know the way Liverpool lost the Champions League final, then bang, come back, won the Champions League. Then they effectively lost the Premier League to City when City pushed them all the way. Then bang, bounced back the following year and won it. This England team had that opportunity. They felt the sheer depression that comes with losing in a final in the nature that we did. But you can use it two ways. It can break you, or you can use it as a springboard and launch yourself into Qatar in November next year and win it.
Now, something you touch on there, the obviously the individuals that did miss the penalties, and we know about the reaction that some of the players got. But Wayne, what advice would you have to Sancho, Rashford, after missing, and the Saka, of course, after missing their penalties?
Well, don't listen to all the stuff that has been said to them. That's for one thing. I think it's an absolute disgrace. I can't believe that it still happens, and something needs to be done about it. But to be honest, it was the actual first thing that went through my head. Was I just felt for all the ones that missed the penalty. Who knows who picked it, who stepped up? Did they put their hand up? They want to take the Gareth Pickham. It doesn't matter, but they had, the balls to step up and take the vote. I'm going to be totally honest here. I don't think I'd be putting my hand up. I honestly don't think I would. So you have to give them credit for stepping up and wanting to take that penalty. They've got to keep their chin up. Look, it's going to be hard for them to deal with, I think. But I hope, and I think they have enough confidence and enough belief in their ability to move on from it. I really hope they do, and I hope they don't get reminded of it left, right, and centre. I hope they're not walking down the street and everyone's shouting at them. And I hope, well, unless they're playing Chelsea and they can give them a little bit of stick, but I want them to kind of move on for it and forget about it and do well, because they're such, I call them kids. They're young men, and you don't want it to affect them or their career. You don't want them to affect it mentally. You want them to be able to just go on and still improve as a player. And in the World Cup final, they get a penalty, they go and stick it in the back of the net and do a Stuart Pearce.
Well, yeah, I mean, you touched on one positive I want to raise from the penalty shootout, Harry Maguire's penalty. What a strike that was.
Well, unbelievable, wasn't it? I'm just thinking, Harry and Maguire maybe should have gone 4 and 5, and those three, might have stuck it in the back of the net. Who knows? But yeah, what a penalty. He had a fantastic tournament. You talk about player of the tournament and stuff. I know he missed the first couple of games, but he was just brilliant for us.
Obviously, you touched on Chiellini as well, like some of the dirty tackles from Italy. But Rory, do you think England need to add a little bit more of that into their game if they are going to go all the way?
Yes, I think that perhaps we need to be a little bit more crafty. I think that perhaps we need to be, even if we don't necessarily adopt the dark arts, I think we need to be aware of them more and have a plan on how to combat them. Because there was some examples where, like, I'm convinced that if Jack Grealish puts that tackle on Jorginho that Jorginho put on Jack Grealish, Grealish is sent off. So we need to work out how to do that. But I also don't think we need to be bogged down in that. I think the talent, the footballing talent alone in this squad of players is elite. I truly believe it's elite. So I think the future is bright. But yes, I think the dark arts of football, there is a place for it, and it's a very valid thing to invest a little bit of time in. I think that we need to be a little bit more deceitful.
Yeah, I think what's really hard is VAR. It's like, what do you get away with these days with VAR? It's a difficult one, and I think with the ref, I agree with you. If it was the other way around, I think it's a red card. There's one incident when we could have had a free kick, like 2 yards out the box. Not saying we would have scored from it. We could have scored from it. He let play go, but it was Saka like 1-on-3 or something like that. It was obviously nothing was going to come from it. So just give the free kick.
But also the player, this is, I suppose, going back to the point. I remember the exact incident. The player who could have played on, I think you're right, it was Saka, needs to not play on and force the referee to give the free kick. And that comes with being a little bit more thoughtful around, I don't know.
It is a difficult one. It is a difficult one because if you've got the ball and the referee doesn't blow, and then you stop and start complaining, they run off with the ball, and he just goes, "No, sorry, I waited you to play." You just don't know, do you? It's a difficult one. It is difficult.
But that's it. I mean, you touched on there like the game management side of things, or playing up to the refs a little bit more. But Wayne, were you kind of taught that growing up as a footballer, or even coached by, say, Mancini, for instance?
I don't think I was ever taught it. I think I like to think I was one of the honest players, so it probably didn't go on my side. But it used to really frustrate me when the ref, because ref know you as a person, they know you as a player. But you know me as a player, you know the gee's just rolling about on the floor and I've not touched him. Like, it used to frustrate me. But yeah, I'm one of them as well. Like if I go in the box and I get a nudge, I'm going down. You've got to. Do you know what I mean? But I'm definitely not. I was definitely not one of them players that was looking to get a foul all the time. Do you know what I mean? I was an honest player, and unless I got in the penalty box, and there's a couple of times I did dive and never got a free kick, but they were free kicks. But yeah, I wasn't very good at diving, put it that way, I think.
I mean, we've also touched on it as well. I mean, do you think Southgate is the right man to lead England to the World Cup? Obviously, it's not too far away, right?
I can't change my mind after one game. I was, before the final, this team, I just thought we were going to win it. I think there's only one thing I would do, and I'm hoping it will change. The likes of Phil Foden, Grealish, Mount, the Sterling, Saka. I think there's finding a place for more of them in the team without the 5 at the back and the 2 in front. I just, I'd love to. Mount can do a job a little bit deeper. It doesn't have to be high up. More of a, in the midfield role. Get Phil Foden in there on the ball, dictating the game a little bit. One defensive midfielder. So you've got both of them in, and then Grealish, Saka, or Sterling as well. For me, that looks great because I think our defenders are good enough, and I think Mount is good enough to do a job going backwards as well. He works hard for the team, so that's the only kind of thing I would like to see from him, from the manager, really.
And Rory, how about you? How optimistic would you be going into a World Cup coming up against slightly different teams, right? Potential Brazil, Argentina. What do you make of them and England's chances in the World Cup?
I think 2 things can be true. I think I want Gareth Southgate to stay. I like him. I like the way he conducts himself. But I also think that there are better managers out there. I think that the way that he lines up, does he make the most of our best players? On some level, is it not a travesty that Jadon Sancho and Jack Grealish had the minimum amount of minutes that you could possibly give them? Is that okay, really? I don't know. But then saying all of that, I think that he can be improved upon. I think he made some big mistakes. I think we're so defensive that it's almost uninspiring. I don't think I want to change him because I really like him. So I don't even know where I sit on that debate. It's so hard.
Well, maybe it's a good job that it's not up to you then right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But, speaking of hopefully some inspiration, we have provided some bets throughout the series of the big stage. So now we're going to review some of our bets and predictions throughout the Euros. So to be fair to you guys, I mean, you did both pick out Italy as potential dark horses, both at around the 11-1 mark before the tournament. So starting off with you, Wayne, I mean, what stood out about Italy to have them as your outside pick?
Well, not Mancini. It was definitely the players. Look, that unbeaten, the team unity, the two centre-backs, the experience they've got, and it's them as players and their intelligence, the way they can play, defending well as a team, the way they can keep the shape. That they definitely have team spirit. And yeah, like the unbeaten and the goalkeeper obviously been fantastic. The way they went about qualifying, everything kind of stood out. I know they were on the tougher side of the group, but they were a big standout.
I mean, this leads us actually nicely on to one of the big lessons learned from a betting point of view is also to look at the draw, consider that as part of your betting. But Rory, how do you think England would have done if we were on the other side of the draw, for instance?
Well, I think we proved in this tournament that we're capable of beating anyone. I think we proved that we do have it in us to turn over the big teams. And, at one point, regardless of where we finished regardless of who we ended up playing, people were worried about England. People were saying that we should potentially throw a game and make sure that we don't finish in the positions that would have meant that we played somebody from the group of death. We finished top of the group, played the team that we were meant to be terrified of, and actually played them off the park. That was an example of a Southgate masterclass. He got it spot on that day. So I don't think that we have anything to be fearful of. And there's a paradigm that I can't quite get my head around. And, people bring it up all the time. But it's should you potentially try and finish second in a group? There was talk about this at the World Cup when England were playing Belgium. Are you better off to not win your games and finish second? And that's just something that I can't get on board with at all. I think you go out to win every game, come what may. I think that you must approach every game because winning breeds winning, and I think that England got it right in the approach. Finishing top of the group was the right decision.
And Wayne, that's the same for you, right? That's never been discussed as a player from a player's point of view to finish second.
Oh no, I said it before. You can't, because you never know what's going to happen. You just can't predict what's going to happen. So you would never ever think of that. Not a chance.
No, Wayne, your flop of the tournament was Spain. I don't think we can call them a flop, but looking back at the tournament, who was the biggest flop for you?
France. I just picked France. I was thinking about it, and you could have maybe put Belgium, but I don't think so. I just think France, to be honest. I think I expected them to go far, and when they went out, I thought they were pretty disappointing, to be honest. So yeah, for me, it was kind of an easy choice.
I mean, do you think that kind of affects their momentum going forward as well? Or do you think they'll bounce back from this, like for the World Cup?
Do you know what? I really don't know. I think you could say yes because of the quality of the players, but then there's talk after the game, when they got knocked out of conflicts in the dressing room. So it's how do you deal with that, and do the players sort that out between themselves? Does the manager end up sorting that out, or do certain players end up not going again? I don't know, but you've definitely got to get in tournament football. You've got to have a good team spirit. You definitely don't want conflicts in and amongst the squad.
And for you, Rory, you had Belgium down as your potential flop of the tournament. I mean, how would you assess their performance? Do you think they were a flop in the end?
Yeah, I think they were a flop. I think they were certainly a flop.
It's not as floppy as France.
It's not as floppy as France. I mean, the other team that deserve a mention here is definitely Portugal. I think Portugal really let themselves down. Their performances, even in the group stage, I know they beat Hungary, but that felt very lucky. It finished 3-0, but it was 0-0 up until like the 84th minute or something. Germany destroyed them. I think Portugal were probably even more of a flop than Belgium. But yeah, I think Belgium didn't really turn it on. They never looked great. Roberto Martinez is a limited manager in my book, and it was what I expected, a fairly tepid performance. And I think when you look at their back line, it's so advanced in age. There was a ceiling for that Belgium team, and I don't even think they hit that ceiling.
Now looking at the individual on display as well, we looked at player of the tournament betting. Myself, I went for Mbappe. Again, Wayne kind of touches on the disappointment from France. Wayne, yourself, you went for Kante as well. Again, yeah, France disappointing Obviously, Donnarumma got the award for player of the tournament in the end. Wayne, do you agree with that award for him? Do you think he has been the standout player?
I think it's really hard. I agree. He had a great tournament. But they went on and won it. But Pickford done well. Pickford made penalty saves as well. I find it really hard to pick one player. You got Sterling had a good tournament. Maguire had a great tournament. Bonucci, Jorginho, God knows where it's come from because I didn't really love him at Chelsea, but he's been fantastic. Chiesa had a good tournament. There are some players that have had good tournaments. There isn't one person that really jumps out at me. So I kind of find it really hard to pick. I just really find it hard to really pick that. There's not one person that really stands out for me.
No, looking at the young player of the tournament, we had Pedri was the eventual winner. I know, Rory, you were picking out some Swedish guys in that market. But yeah, what did you make of Pedri's performance? Is he the standout young player for you?
Yes, I think Pedri is probably the right decision for young player. I think looking at all of these things, I do think it's a shame because, my suggestion, Jadon Sancho, he was never really given an opportunity. And had he been given an opportunity, it could be a slightly different story on so many levels. But I think Pedri was the young player. I agree with Wayne there, but Wayne brought up Pickford when we were talking about Donnarumma. And I think that's totally fair enough. I think Jordan Pickford had a better tournament than Donnarumma. He really did. He had a better tournament than Donnarumma. He didn't win it, but he got the Golden Gloves with 2 games to spare. He saved penalties in the shootout, including one from Jorginho, which is supposedly the impossible penalty. So the Donnarumma one I don't really agree with. Pedri, I think, is probably the right decision. He had an excellent tournament, and he had a brilliant season, didn't he? Playing for Barcelona, really stepping into the fray there. They're a club that are going through an awful lot at the moment. So
I don't think he ever loses.
It's a lot on his shoulders. No,
he never seems to lose the ball. Just he breaks the lines. Yeah, he was brilliant. I think the only thing he could probably add is goals, really. But other than that, he's brilliant, I think.
And you mentioned goals as well. Obviously, top goal scorer went to Ronaldo, or he got the golden boot in the end, having an assist as well. My own bold prediction was that he wouldn't score at all, so I got that completely wrong. Although I did make a case for it, I think in the Hungary game, it took to the 86th minute, and he did score a few penalties as well. But anyway, well done to Rory for picking out Cristiano.
Got to give a shout out to Schick, by the way. He's won it by an assist, and he had a great tournament. Scoring that many goals. It's fair play to him. Ronaldo had 3 penalties as well, by the way.
Exactly.
So but you were right, Rory.
Yeah, I know you're trying to rob me of my victory here, Wayne. What are you doing?
But Rory, where do you think Ronaldo goes on from here?
I mean, you can never write him off, can you? Does he lead Portugal to the World Cup in Qatar? 14, 15 months' time? What's he doing? I don't see why not. I think he will be playing. And look, he's won the Golden Boot here. There's no reason why he doesn't carry on. And do you know what? If we're having this conversation before Qatar, I will probably say that he'll win the Golden Boot there. I will never write that man off. I think he's amazing.
I don't think I'll write him off again either, to be honest. But moving on as well, we also asked the guys to select their team or their 11 of the tournament, and we're going to compare that to the UEFA official team of the tournament now. So I'm going to pull that up. There you do have Schick instead of Lukaku, for instance, and also Forsberg. What stood out for you about him for Sweden?
Look, he was a really, really tidy player. He scored 4. He played 4? Was it 4 goals? Did he score in every game? Did he play 4 games?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought he's a really, really tidy player. Scored in every game. I was looking through. You look through all the teams, and it was not easy to pick really. And I was trying to pick players from different teams that I thought done well. And for me, he had a really good tournament. So yeah, that's why he made into. Oh, sorry, close the door. I'm doing a video thing. Yeah, I'll have to look because I couldn't find my own headphones.
No.
Sorry, he's shouting at me because I've got his headphones on. He wants his headphones back.
We haven't got too much longer. That's all right.
Yeah, it was 4 goals, 4 games, and he had a good tournament. Really, it's all. He's a good player.
And looking at Patrick Schick as well, do you think he has what it takes to potentially move on to maybe the bigger stage? Obviously, he's at Leverkusen now, but could he move into the Premier League, for instance?
I thought for me, the tournament he had a good tournament, scores goals, tall, quick. Thought he's a really good player. Is there a chance of a move for him? I would have said yes if he had been at Leverkusen quite long. He's only been there, what is he, one season?
I think so, yeah.
Is it one season that he's been there? I think so. So he's got long enough left on his contract, but it wouldn't surprise me if people were interested in him. I thought he had a really good tournament.
Now we're going to move on to Rory's 11 as well. You did go for a bit of a different flavour in terms of the goalkeeper, having Pickford in. Also want to give a shout out to you picking Christian Eriksen. What did you make of the Denmark story?
Yeah, I put him in because I think the team of the tournament, for me, it wasn't solely the best players of the tournament. It was the players that have... Football's emotional, isn't it? And the way that football can make you feel. And I think that I tried to do it on that as well a bit. So, yes, I think the emotional connection that was established by Denmark in their first game against Finland set the tone for the tournament. I thought it was a wonderful tournament. It was so enjoyable. I loved it so much and I got so invested in it. But I think a lot of that love came from the emotion that we saw in that game. So I thought he'll be in my team because I think this tournament will be forever synonymous with Christian Eriksen. And he was in, and then a lot of the other players, I think it was fairly... I tried to do it on a meritocracy. I think it was fairly self-explanatory, the players I picked. The Donnarumma Pickford one we've covered. I think he certainly deserved to be there. I went for Xhaka as well because I think, if we were to pick one performance from one player, I think Xhaka versus France was truly
brilliant.
Yeah, Xhaka versus France, unreal. And I thought that Joachim Mæhle for the Danes was actually brilliant as well. Like really, really played well, and I think caught everyone's eye early on. So yeah, I'm fairly happy with my team. I think that's a minimum of semi-finalists.
Now, obviously, now the attention is going to be moving on to club football, of course. But for you, Wayne, I mean, how do players react after such a big tournament? So a lot of players went to extra time as well. I mean, how will pre-season go now, do you think?
Well, for the boys that it didn't end too well, it depends on them as an individual and how they deal with it. And like I said, I hope they'll be fine with it. There will be disappointment, but hopefully football will come thick and fast, that they get time to forget about it, and hopefully people will let them kind of forget about it, but it'll always be at the back of their mind and they want to prove people wrong. So it could work in their favour as well, and hopefully, not put it right, but next time they'll have a penalty, they'll smash it in the back of the net. I think in terms of, the extra time and the amount of minutes they played last season and the extra times and the people that have gone further in the competition, it will come down to the clubs. It will come down to clubs monitoring how that player feels. How much time are they going to get off? Do they come back? How late do they come back for training? Do a few of them miss the start of the season? It will all come down to the clubs and how the player is feeling, I think, because they're gonna have to monitor them. It's a big ask for them to just come flying back in straight away.
You mentioned there, obviously, a lot of the games did go to extra time. It's actually worthy of looking at from a betting point of view. For the knockout stages, 8 of the 15 knockout games did go all the way to extra time. So you would have actually made a profit if you were just backing the draw. Now, Rory, over to you as well from the kind of the fans' perspective. Obviously, we've seen people back in the stadiums, and obviously it's going to open up as well for the domestic campaign. How big a factor is that just in general for you, kind of getting back to normal from a football point of view?
Oh, it's a wonderful thing. It's beautiful news. Going to football matches is a rite of passage for people. I think it's such an enjoyable thing to do. I think there are friendships that are established via football, and it's something that's robbed us. Has been robbed from us, often for good reason. But to see fans back in the stadium was truly beautiful, and I also believe that fans directly impact the result of the game. I don't think that certain things would have happened that did happen if there were fans there, and equally vice versa. So having fans back in the stadium, full stadiums for a new Premier League season, is the best news that we could possibly have hoped for, aside from England winning Euro 2020, of course.
Of course. Now, I just want to wrap up the show with just some quick fire predictions. I think I know which way you're going to go with this for your Premier League prediction. So just start off with you, Wayne. Who do you think will win the Premier League?
Chelsea.
And for you, Rory?
Chelsea.
There you go.
Next one then. We'll look over in Germany, the Bundesliga. Who do you think is going to win there?
I'll go Bayern Munich. It's looking like Dortmund are going to be ravished. They've already lost Sancho. There's talk about Haaland. I think Bayern Munich will be just too strong again.
I think you've got to, because if Haaland goes as well, and he will be at Chelsea, won't he? Let's face facts.
Maybe some inside info there for you.
Come on. No, it's not. I reckon it's happening. Come on, Roman.
And also, you touched on Rory before Barcelona, their struggles, but over in La Liga, how do you think that's going to play out this season?
I have no idea. I mean, what's going on in La Liga at the moment is truly fascinating, isn't it? It's so baffling. I think that Lionel Messi has signed for Barcelona, but they're not allowing him to register until they've sorted out some of their debt. He's taken a pay cut, but they signed him up for 5 years until he's 39 on 250 bags a week. I think they're in trouble. I think the Super League has corrupted their approach to the game, and I think it's actually wide open, and therefore I'm going to say Atletico Madrid will retain.
Good shout. How about for you, Wayne?
It's hard to look past them, isn't it? Because it is so messy. We're saying Messi. There's talk of him. What is it? Is it a new 5-year contract or something like that?
5 years. 5 years.
I love Messi. I love Messi. So I'd love them to just turn it around, sign a few players, and just see him at the top of the league again. Because for me, I know there's all this talk with Ronaldo and Messi. I love Messi, and I'm hoping he can get them to the top again.
Now, obviously, Italy were the winners of Euro 2020, but how do you think about Serie A? How's that going to shape up? Rory, start with you.
Again, it's very tricky, isn't it? I will say, I think AC Milan are potentially looking strong, but it feels wide open, because also it's so difficult to not just say Juventus, isn't it? Because history has taught us that it's Juventus up until Antonio Conte gets involved. Antonio Conte is now no longer involved, so does it just revert back to you? In fact, I'm going to say it does. Juve, normal services resumed.
And for you, Wayne, as well, Serie A?
Oh, I don't know. Do you know what? It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't. I've slated, not that I've slated him, but Mourinho hasn't done well of late. I just fancy him to just surprise a few people, I just fancy him to just turn it around and do the Mourinho thing. Because for me, I'm surprised he's got a job, to be honest. All the pay-ups he gets and things like that. So I feel like this could be it was, where does he go next? Because he's kind of been around. So I'm like, for me, this is his last chance. This is his last dance, and he's got to do something. So I'm just going to go out there and say, Roma, sod it.
Great shout. I think we're going to round off with probably the easiest prediction as well, but who is going to win World Cup 2022?
England.
And for you, Rory?
Full house, England.
There you go. Well, chaps, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the big stage. I hope you've enjoyed it as well. We'll be back soon in a couple of weeks where we're going to switch focus to the domestic campaign. But for now, Wayne Bridge, Rory Jennings, thank you for joining us.
Top man. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And now we're going to roll over to the community section where we just sum up how it's been going on bettingexpert.com for our elite tipsters during Euro 2020. So throughout the tournament, we have been giving away cash prizes based on the tips posted onto bettingexpert.com. And now I want to pull up the final leaderboard for Euro 2020. It's Le Pauvre, if I can pronounce that correctly, who did pip the aptly named Del Piero on the last game. He actually had some really good winning tips on the final as well. So congratulations to him. He takes home €2,000 for the top prize. And we will have more competitions on bettingexpert.com as well throughout the year. But for now, if you are going to be placing a bet on any of our predictions, as always, please do gamble responsibly. And thanks a lot for watching The Big Stage.